Well, the interesting dynamic of the Los Angeles Dodgers as opposed to the Brooklyn Dodgers is that their image completely changed because they were ruffians and bums in Brooklyn, playing before very ethnic crowds, and they became a very white bread team in Los Angeles. They were, they had businessmen specials, and they were a lot of the Latino community stayed away from Dodger Stadium. A lot of that went back to perceived problems with the building of the stadium, because a lot of Mexican American families had been displaced or supposedly displaced during this period of time. It really wasn't until Fernando Valenzuela in the late 70s, early 80s. So O'Malley really had a very conservative base, and that was what he played to. He wanted Hollywood stars, he wanted businessmen, he wanted conservative political figures like Ronald Reagan and John Wayne to grace his stadium. And it was clean, and really it completely changed with the Giants, because they'd always been the team in Manhattan and New York. And now they were kind of the ruffians playing in this poorly constructed, wind-driven stadium in San Francisco, which compared so poorly to Dodger Stadium, and in many ways really set San Francisco back. And a lot of times cities are viewed by the movies that are made about them. If you look at the 60s and 70s movies made about New York when they went into corruption, Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, San Francisco becomes Dirty Harry and a city of corruption. And Los Angeles didn't go that way. Los Angeles was the people who O'Malley wanted to get were the perceived parents of Dustin Hoffman in the movie The Graduate. Pasadena elites, well-to-do, well-scrubbed, close to the stadium, buy season tickets and bring their families, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that was the vision that he saw, and that was exactly what he got. Well, the building of Dodger Stadium came during a period of time when what was her name? What was Otis Chandler's mother's name?
Buffy Chandler.
Dorothy
Buff.
When Dorothy Buff Chandler was revitalizing downtown Los Angeles and building the music center. And what she did was she combined Pasadena, San Marino money with Hollywood money and West Side money, and it all came together, and she was the perfect person to do that. The building of Dodger Stadium is somewhat different as a paradigm, though, because it sits alone on that plateau, and what you see now, if you were looking to, like they're looking now for a football stadium, if you're looking for some sort of a vision of how you would do it now, it would be different. It would be in Santa Monica, or perhaps on the flatlands of Playa del Rey, near the water, possibly even built. I've always thought about the building of a stadium out on the water and creating a nightlife business center, perhaps in the Marina del Rey, Playa del Rey corridor, because you don't really have that center of bars and restaurants around Dodger Stadium that you now have in San Francisco and in other ballparks. But then it was a different world. It wasn't downtown areas did not want that. San Francisco could have had that, and downtown San Francisco refused to let Horace Stone build their stadium south of Market, which is basically where it is now, because of parking and traffic. So they did the best they could with what they had at the time, and I think it was the perfect stadium for its time.
All right. When was the first time you went to a Dodger game? I mean, it would have been.
My first Dodger game. I grew up in San Francisco, and the Dodgers were a vision for me. And I had a friend who moved to my high school from Los Angeles, and he painted a glorious picture of Dodger Stadium and Sandy Koufax and beautiful women and tanned girls, and I'm going to Candlestick Park and freezing, and sitting there with 5,000 people. And so I knew there was something in my mind that is down there. And I found this at USC, I found this at the Coliseum, I found it at Dodger Stadium. I found what so many people who have come to Los Angeles over the years were looking for, which was this life. First time I saw that stadium, it was 100 degrees. It was a doubleheader against the Phillies. It was Don Sutton against Steve Carlton. The Dodgers won it in the 10th on a homer by Lee Lacy. There were 56,000 people at the game. And this is the big leagues. This is not Candlestick Park with 5,000 fans. This is the major leagues. And that's how the team felt about it. They had their own plane. They had their own spring training complex. They were first class. And in those days, they were the team in baseball. They paid better than anybody else. They had better facilities, and everybody wanted to be a Dodger. And so that's what I knew they were, and I found it when I came looking for it, just like everybody else who has come to this promised land.
All right, that was on that. I don't know.
Well, Los Angeles was a Wild West city, and their history was such, and so they regarding the Dodgers and the city's ability to get by any land use regulations that might have held them back and that did hold them back in New York. That was not going to happen in Los Angeles. It was a Republican city. It was a city that had been devised by the Chandler family and the Los Angeles Times. They had built the city in their image, and they wanted entrepreneurs. They wanted wildcatters. They wanted hardworking people who were going to take advantage of this promised land, and that's how they viewed it as this open land, as a paragon of the West, of the settled West. And this was the last of the settled West. And Los Angeles is a city of know-how, get-it-done people who will stop at no lengths to get what they want. And you don't have to go any further back than the building of the aqueduct, which was one of the great engineering feats of all times, right up there with the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, bringing water into the city between 1906 and 1913 when they had no water. The building of the Coliseum, the building of the Rose Bowl, which Stanford tried to get in 1921, and the city of Pasadena stood up and said, no, we're going to keep it in Pasadena, and they built the Rose Bowl in a matter of months for about $250,000. The getting of the Olympics to Los Angeles. So these are all precursors of a city that is going to get what they want. And it's Hollywood. They're a city of dreamers. Cecil B. DeMille, Darryl Zanuck, gamblers, people who came out to California to make a name for them. On the East Coast, you were your family. You were, if you were a patrician stock and you had the right connections, you made it on Wall Street. Not so in California. You could fail in the East. You could fail several times, and you just got back up. It was the American dream, and that was exactly what O'Malley saw. That was the self-fulfilling prophecy that was the building of the Dodgers.